Hello, I'm going to walk you through some basics of developing a good spiccato bow stroke. So spiccato is specifically a string technique for all the string instruments that use a bow, where we bounce the bow. And it is an advanced technique, but it's also one that you can start developing even if you are really a beginner, even if you haven't played for very long. This is one of the string techniques that takes years to develop really well. I think spiccato and vibrato are the two that are not short-term projects. So I think it's great for you to start however far along you are in your playing, and if you have been playing for a while, you will get some tips from this video. First thing is, you want to be balancing your bow stroke. I spend a lot of time talking about really getting a power stroke by putting a lot of weight on the first finger. For the spiccato stroke, you need to have a balanced hand. So I put a fair amount of weight on my pinky finger to make sure that I've got balance. Don't need your middle fingers very much at all, but I really try to get a good balance in my hand. Then we want the sensation of bouncing. It's really like a ball bouncing. So it's the same idea of bouncing a ball, and I think it's actually useful to feel this, but in the case of the cello, I'm gonna put my bow on the string and I'm gonna make a U-shaped motion with my hand that's gonna turn into the spiccato stroke. What I'm doing here is I'm actually hitting my bow. So this is sort of a silent exercise where I am trying to hit the bow the same way I would if I were bouncing a ball. So when we bounce a ball, it tends to go up and down. But if you were, for instance, trying to bounce the ball, maybe shoving it to a friend, something like that, where you're not trying to bounce it simply down, but back and forth. So that motion then, with my balanced hand, turns into the spiccato. And I'm doing it really high right now. I'm making a U-shaped stroke, and I'm trying to specifically have that bouncing feeling. So I'm trying not to put it down on the string, and I'm trying not to drag it as I go, but I'm trying to have buoyancy and pick it up. And it's okay if it sounds really crummy right now, because you're trying to get the motion. And it might be that you need to do this sort of slightly exaggerated slow motion, and I'm kind of hitting maybe about there. I'm sort of close to my hand. We talk sometimes about the balance point of the bow, which you can find by doing that. So that's a place where I would balance. That was right here. There's the speed I would use that. I would call that a medium speed spiccato. So one of the things you'll notice as I get more refined with how I'm doing the spiccato, when I gain control of it, I go smaller. And I'm trying to, even when I do this kind of technique, and you can do this fast, this will help actually, I totally advise doing this a bunch, this sort of patting the dog kind of thing on your bow. To see how small can you do it, because that's going to turn into a spiccato stroke. So I'm still making U shapes in the air no matter where I am. At this stage, you're not going to go into the middle of the bow. That's only for a really fast stroke. When I start getting to a faster spiccato stroke, I do start using my fingers more. I'm not using my fingers much here, but you could, if you wanted, if you have finger control, you could use your fingers a little bit to pull the bow into your hand and shoot it out. So there is a little bit of finger looseness or directed finger idea. Another aspect is what's going on with your arm. So I talk about tilting the bow slightly outwards. And what I'm really doing with that is I'm getting my whole arm up. So you need to feel like the bow is hanging off your arm to some extent. Your wrist will be higher. And again, so there's a difference between when I have a low wrist, it's usually because I'm pushing hard or pushing with some firmness into the string. And when my wrist is up, it goes along with the hair tilting flatter. It seems counterintuitive that to make the bow bounce, you'd want flatter hair, but in fact, that is how you're gonna work that. So my arm comes up, my wrist comes up a little bent, and then I feel like I'm hanging off my arm better. And I notice it's interesting, my arm wants to go faster spiccato as soon as I put it into that configuration. So for me, I think when I'm doing these slower spiccatos, I don't do as much of this automatic arm up thing. That is potentially for going faster, but you may be helped by doing that even on a slower spiccato. Sometimes we call this a brush stroke, when our spiccato is close to our hand. So maybe one of the most important things about learning to do spiccato with a lot of control is you just have to do it all the time. It's very, very similar to vibrato. You're going to sit around and you're going to do single notes, and you're going to try and maybe do rhythms. But I'm really listening to hear something that sounds like ping, ping, ping. Nothing scrapey. It's really, really bouncy. It's going up. And I can also visually look at it and see that it's even. And if you don't have that level of control, probably you need to just say, I'm going to do this for 2 minutes a day on the open strings till you get control. You don't have to go on different strings. You can try one string. Eventually you'll try other strings. And then your next stage is going to be doing something like this. And again, I'm just looking for even notes the whole time, playing scales. When you get really good at it, you'll be able to go faster and all over the cello and do combination things. It's going to take a while. This is not a quick learn. Good luck.